What was your ultimate flex when you were a child? Beating people in foot races. Track and field day was flex season. I had an electric scooter, must have been flexin' hard since some parents would harass me for riding it on school property after school. I had one lady who was so jealous that she would follow me on my way home and scream, "You need a license for that thing." I checked with the police. Meanwhile, I'm 13 years old riding a toy designed for kids. There was some girl at my college that had one of those. This was around 2007 when electric anything was still unique and special. Hearing a cheery "on your left," while this girl blew by on what was effectively a silent motorcycle that was somehow allowed on pedestrian paths became a pretty common occurrence. I can blow air out of my tear ducts. Not so impressive at 34, but in middle school that was a real crowd pleaser. My cousin could do this, we even tested it underwater. We had to ask an adult how this worked, they didn't believe us. It even works underwater. Took away my parents' computer privileges when they tried to take mine. Used dad's password, backed up his data, reinstalled Windows, made myself administrator, made them accounts with password protection. The next 4 hours were me refusing to give up the new passwords until I was given my own computer. My 11-year-old brain was just on fire that day. Long story short, my mom was fuming, every threat under the sun, screaming, etc., which was fine. I just mentioned how easy it would be to delete that recipes folder she kept on the desktop if she didn't, and I quote, "calm down and talk to me more maturely." My dad, however, after 2 hours of messing around with the PC was just impressed. Couldn't believe his 11-year-old pulled a power move on him. Eventually he caved, and spent 3 more hours attempting to communicate with the demonic beast that is my mother until she agreed to my terms. I got to keep an old computer in my room, on the grounds I put everything back exactly how I'd found it. And that, my friends, is how I learned about leverage. I had a Charizard card. Kneel before your king. Wanna hear a real cringe? I traded my pulled rare Charizard for a starter deck Chansey. And I liked Charizard way more than that pink thing. Don't really know WTF was going on in my head. Bringing McDonald's to school during lunchtime. As for personal talents, absolutely nada. I was as talentless as they came. I got a holographic Blastoise in my first pack of Pokémon cards. My dad worked with Steve Irwin and we often had dinners etc. with his family. That's not a childhood flex, that's a lifetime flex right there. First to discover Minecraft in my school and spreaded the word around. Me too, and after a while somebody was saying he began playing it. Same. People I didn't know started to come up to me on recess as well and told me they loved the game and were asking questions like how to play with friends. LMAO. Gained a lot of friends during those days. I did the same but for RuneScape. The AUG 2001 version. I remember convincing the teacher in charge of the computer lab that it was educational because of the smelting. Me and my friends would compare how many cuts and bruises we had on our legs. I was always the winner. I have atopic dermatitis. I was the fastest kid in my class. Same. But I could blow little spit bubbles that would float out using my tongue, so I guess I had that going for a while. We used to own a bakery, so I always had the best bread, buns, etc. during lunch. Downside, I got very fat during school. Sounds like you had the biggest buns in high school as well. I had all these fake mobile phones they used for displays in stores. I used to sell them. I had the Kenner Luke Skywalker figure with the yellow lightsaber that comes out of his forearm. CPS 2000 Super Soaker, the most powerful Super Soaker to ever hit the market. Some idiot of a person threw it in the trash as they thought it was just old. I miss it a lot as nothing compares to being physically exhausted trying to get those final charges in to pump it up to full power. When you maxed it out, you knew you were about to do a lot of damage. I can touch my nose with my tongue. Men, hide your wives. The 152 count or whatever it was Crayola box. The big one that looked like a treasure chest. I can touch my nose with my tongue and I can pop my jaw. My dad has stated that whenever he hears me pop my jaw he's scared that my jaw is just going to unhinge like a snake. I used to brag that I knew Esteban from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody's full name until one day one of the popular kids came up to me out of the blue and asked me to say it and I panicked and messed up and he told the entire class one was a fraud, so anyway that's what keeps me up at night. When Tamagotchis had a second wave of popularity around 2004, you'd keep it on a lanyard and wear it around your neck. The more Tamagotchis you had on the lanyard, the cooler you were. Being able to change the inner tubes on a popped bicycle tire. I could stand at the top of a steep grassy hill and dive into a front roll and do multiple front rolls all the way down to the bottom, with no kind of gymnastic or other sport training. I'm lucky I didn't break my neck. I would literally fling myself down these hills, but other kids were always super impressed because none of them could do it. I could build a PC, but nobody cared. Loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. Smoking a candy cigarette when I was 10 or 11 behind the convenience store, looking angrily at a younger kid and yelling with my newfound machismo, "What are you looking at?" Partially popping my arm out of the shoulder socket, certain unnatural-looking hand-finger contortions. Freaked people out. It was awesome. I liked to twist my thumb behind my index finger's knuckle and hold it there. In elementary school I could also bend my knees pretty far to the point where I could wrap my foot around my waist and hold it there. I can't do that second one anymore, but I still have the thumb trick. Do the longest skid on my bike at the end of a dead-end street. The trick is to lean forward and take some weight off the back tire, but I didn't share that with anyone. I wanted to win every time and I did. I could do multiplication facts really fast. I won the multiplication bee. I'd like to thank my mom for all of the hours she spent reviewing flashcards with me to make me the nerdiest third grader of all time. I was on the front page of the newspaper with my head stuck through a hole in the bottom of a cardboard box that was filled with jelly beans. I was able to bend back my index fingers to the point where they would touch the top of my hand. Showed it to about everyone I met. My ability to mimic other people, my doodling prowess, and my street shark toys. Puberty killed my mimicking ability though, and my mom donated my street sharks. At least I'm still decent at doodling, lol. I could and still can take any pills without using water every single time. I used to do that all the time, but at a certain point I realized that sometimes I would get an uncomfortable feeling in my chest that felt like the pill was stuck there. After that I started drinking while taking a pill so I wouldn't get that feeling anymore. First kid in my primary school to read Harry Potter, and I can do those really loud shepherd-type whistles where you put your fingers in your mouth. I procrastinated on all my HW and still got good grades. I mean, we were given over a week to write an essay and I wrote it in the last 5 hours before it was due. I got an A. Dad worked at cable company, so not only did we have all channels, but we got 1/2 off pay-per-view. I always had the monthly wrestling events. I was already reading at 3.5 years old and basically at an adult level by 6. I vaguely remember, and my mom confirms, visiting my older brother in school while they were all learning to read and the teachers not believing it at first. Then reacting to it in an almost negative, "This is unnatural" sort of way. I used to be able to beat Metroid for NES when I was 9 years old. Also once got into the Technodrome in the original TMNT for NES. Irish dancing. I got to the second highest level possible before the injuries became too much. My dad has a dump truck. When I was in kindergarten, nobody believed me, so I had Dad drop me off to school in the dump truck. My new Spider-Man underwear at that time, which I was so proud of owning, I actually pulled down my pants to show it to my teacher in class. The memory is so old even I doubt that I did that in reality sometimes. I used to be a silent, but bright child. Everyone wanted to be in a group project with me 'cause I did all the work. Then I get the idea to do the presentation alone with my teacher without that group knowing. I got a full score, the group failed. And of course, they could not do anything to me 'cause that would only prove that I did indeed do all the work in THR eyes of the teachers. Yo-yos were a big trend in my school. My uncle had recently come back from Japan and presented me with a Japanese X-Brain yo-yo. X-Brains were considered the best yo-yo you could buy in the UK after a yo-yo pro called Yo Hands won the championship with one. Word spread around school that not only did I have an X-Brain, but a super cool Japanese X-Brain. Everyone wanted to be my friend and I even had icky smelly girls offering to be my girlfriend if they could share the yo-yo. I was 10 then. I'm 27 now and that's the coolest I've ever felt. Any of the following were of the utmost importance: number of POGs, number of N64 games you've mastered, Tamagotchi ownership, ability to eat a warhead while straight-faced. Beyblade launcher. 8 years old and I already knew haters were gone hate. I was really good at pull-ups. I could do 30 to 40 at once. One day during recess, my middle school teacher challenged me to a pull-up contest. By the way, he was old enough to have leg damage from polio, walked with crutches, so he made up for it by having massive upper body strength. Students admired him, he was a great human and teacher. I won by one pull-up. Not sure I actually won, or he threw it to give the otherwise terribly awkward and mostly friendless kid who happened to be able to do lots of pull-ups a win.